tuned to Love 101, the family station. Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch right here in Love 101 FM, the family station. In just a few, we'll connect with host Clip Marshall. In the main watch today, the Privy Council's Traffic Bureau decision. In the second watch, controversial gender pronouns in the USA from a Caribbean perspective. And our Facebook question today, we ask, what do you think about the Privy Council's decision re Traffic Bureau? Please leave your responses on our Facebook page, Love 101 FM Jamaica. Or also, you can send us a text, yes, via WhatsApp, 876-997-3125. We'll share responses later in the program. Before we take a break, this morning's I quote, positive anything is better than negative nothing. You heard that? Positive anything is better than negative nothing. Albert Hugbird. Take a break. When we come back, the Morning Watch. Please stay with us.
When there's violence against women, who are the real victims? The man who is a product of his society, or the woman who suffers the repercussions? Is it both? Is violence gender specific? Is the woman as the aggressor deserving of anything she gets? What makes a woman beat up a man and the man take it? What is wrong with the psyche of us all that makes us so violent while at the same time accepting of it? Why is our cycle always a negative one? Where's our heart? Violence against women. The Psychology of the People. Dr. Herbert Gale, SSP Stephanie Lindsay, Dr. Euphemia Burke Robinson, Owen Blacker Ellis, Simone Sharia, and the rest of Jamaica will converge at the Love 101 FM virtual town hall meeting to figure out the answers to these and many more questions. We'll all discuss the issues, the problems, share the personal and intimate stories, the possible solutions and options. It will be 2 hours of an intense exchange of thoughts and truths many of us are ignorant to, denying or avoiding. Our host and interviewer is Nadine Blair, and Shivani Blair will be your social media liaison. Make sure you get there early with your thoughts and questions so you can be heard. 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Tuesday, April 27. Violence Against Women. The Psychology of the People. It will be right here on Love 101 FM and live on our YouTube channel and Facebook page. Love 101 FM's virtual town hall meeting is sponsored by Colgate, Suavitel, Chris and Charles, Shade Purified Drinking Water,
Music Media Productions,
and the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Listen for JIS at 7 p.m. and our Bible study from Praise Deliverance Ministry will be aired at 9:30 p.m. immediately after the town hall.
We're working on a brighter day, you not have to fret. You know your family secure, you not need no stress. It's like you run a 5K, set the pace, win the race, celebrate, and you still never bust no sweat. We see we brother and we sister, this is how we heal them. Easy now, you want guardian life, it's a nation we're building. Many hearts, but we all want the same thing. Live secure and live easy.
Flow is connecting Jamaica to fiber-fast internet. Over 250 communities island-wide have received upgrades since last year, with many more to come. Flow is committed to giving more Jamaicans better internet access. And with over $40 billion invested, our network grows stronger each day. Visit a Flow store today or call 1-800-804-2994 to find out if you can upgrade to the fiber-fast experience on Jamaica's largest network.
Hello, and it's now time for the main watch, and we're looking at the Privy Council's Traffic Bureau decision. The Privy Council's Traffic Bureau decision, and the Traffic Bureau case started some years ago, and to put it simply, the case is about a $30 million payment that had been made by Traffic Bureau here of the Netherlands to a bank account, and a certain bank account in relation to a member of the People's National Party or an association thereof, and the case has gone through various levels of the court, of our judicial system, judgment dismissing the appeal of the relevant persons who obtained leave to appeal to the Privy Council was issued Monday, April 19th, and in a nutshell, the appeal of the persons were dismissed. It means, therefore, that based on the ruling, that former PNP President Mrs. Portia Simpson Miller, Philip Paulwell, Robert Pickersgill, Colin Campbell, and another person, Norton Hines, must testify now in open court. Well, how did the Privy Council come to this decision, and what happens from here on? We have at this time our guest, who is the head of the Privy Council unit in the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, Mrs. Sharon Millwood Moore. And to join us at 7:15 for a few minutes will be Queen's Counsel Caroline Hay, and she's a former Senior Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions in the Office of the DPP, Director of Public Prosecutions Office, Mrs. Sharon Millwood Moore. Good morning. How are you, madam?
Good morning to you and to your listeners. I'm very well, thank you.
Great having you on. Now, we don't want to assume that everyone recalls all of the history of the matter. Could you give us, in a little nutshell, a brief history of what transpired with this case of Trafigura here in Jamaica, and why is this recent ruling of the Privy Council so significant?
All right. I would start by indicating that the matter really had its genesis or its beginning, so to speak, as far as the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions here in Jamaica is concerned, on the 3rd of December 2007, when the National Public Prosecutor's Office in the Netherlands sent a request to our office here in Jamaica for legal assistance in respect of an investigation which was then underway in the Netherlands, relating, as you said before, to alleged breaches by Trafigura Bahir of sections of the Dutch Criminal Code, which really related to bribery of public officials. Now, the basis on which the National Public Prosecutor's Office would have written to us here in Jamaica for this assistance is, of course, what is referred to in short as MACMA, the Mutual Assistance in Criminal Matters Act, by which Jamaica has agreed or uses this particular piece of legislation to carry out our obligations under various treaties that we have in order to provide assistance to other countries, and in turn to be able, in appropriate situations, for Jamaica to make requests of other countries to assist us when we are in need. Now, why the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions was even involved in this is because under the legislation, MACMA, we are the designated central authority. That is, the Office of the DPP is designated as a central authority. We receive requests from what is referred to as requesting states, and it is our responsibility and our obligation on behalf of Jamaica to carry out these requests, to see to it that they're fulfilled, that the information or material that is needed by the requesting state is provided. The obligations under this act for Jamaica are very, very important. And one of the things that this Privy Council ruling signals in a very clear way is not only the importance of this legislation, of its provisions, and of or being able to fulfill the obligations as a country, but the essential point that was in issue in this Privy Council decision, I would say, really had to do with the fact that the appellants were challenging the ruling that had been made by retired Judge of the Supreme Court, Justice Lennox Campbell, that they ought to attend court and answer the questions that were asked of them in open court. That is the essence of what was ultimately challenged in the way that it was. It's on the principle of open justice that there was absolutely nothing that ought to have been able to restrict the proceedings in such a way that they should have been held in private or in chambers, as the appellants had up to a certain point been arguing. In fact, one of the arguments that was handled or dealt with quite forcefully and directly by the Privy Council, it was also dealt with here in Jamaica at the Court of Appeal level. And in fact, it was dealt with by the full court in Jamaica, where a panel of 3 judges were asked to look at the question. The appellants had argued that under the Constitution of Jamaica, the provisions that speak to the fact that proceedings ought to be public, they were adamant that the proceedings under MACMA, that is the Mutual Assistance Criminal Matters Act, were not proceedings that ought to be held in public as referred to under the Constitution. And to these various positions that were taken by the appellants, the Privy Council said no, and in fact upheld the ruling that was made by Justice Campbell, that the hearing ought to take place in open court and that the appellants ought to be summoned to attend and answer the questions asked, where the judge would carry out the ordinary functions of a judge. You asked where it is that we are at now and what happens from here. It may have been heard, but for the benefit of those of your listeners who have not heard, the very day following the providing of the handing down of this decision by the Privy Council, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has, in keeping with normal procedure as we would in any case of this nature, written officially to the Registrar of the Supreme Court of Jamaica, indicating what has been the ruling of the Privy Council, so that it is for the Registrar of the Supreme Court, who is for all intents and purposes the Chief Executive Officer, so to speak, as it regards the setting of dates, who will now determine when the matter will be brought before the court, at which time all the relevant parties would be informed. And as one can well imagine, the various arrangements that would need to be made for how the matter is to be handled going forward will be determined.
We're almost upon a break, but could you just help us before we head to that break, Mrs. Millwood Moore? The answers to those questions in open court would be used to assist the prosecution in the Netherlands?
Well, that is the basis on which the request was made, because as I indicated, it is the National Public Prosecutor that made those requests. So they will look at those, they will look at the responses to see what, if anything, they are able to make of it and to what extent it can in fact assist them.
Yes, understood. Can you hold that thought for a moment, Mrs. Millwood Moore, because we're upon a break. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Certainly. Jamaica Banana Board, Green Gold, Life Health, and the Environment. The time brought to you by the Jamaica Banana Board is
7:16.
You are the buzz, 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 buzz. You are the zing, 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 zing. You are the you are the click, click, click. You are the pop, pop, pop. You are the I in Jamaica. So keep fizzing for the love of it. Pepsi.
Entrepreneurs, now you've got more support in your corner. Introducing Sagicor Bank Business Resource Center, where entrepreneurs benefit from free training in business management, financial support and guidance from pros, as well as research capabilities. Sagicor Bank, in partnership with the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, brings you this first center of its kind for small entrepreneurs to develop and grow. Let's help you take your business to the next level of success. Contact Sagicor Bank Business Resource Center today. WhatsApp 876-997-3745.
Out of many one people, out of many one Jews.
Out of many real fruit, but there ain't no substitute. We put the best fruit in, pour out enough love in, bring out the sunshine in, the true juice. This are the juice of Jamaica. Every fruit, every tropical flavor. When you feel the heat, you know say you a beat true juice with your neighbor. Out of many, one juice, true juice.
Flow is connecting Jamaica to fiber-fast internet. Over 250 communities island-wide have received upgrades since last year, with many more to come. Flow is committed to giving more Jamaicans better internet access. And with over $40 billion invested, our network grows stronger each day. Visit a Flow store today or call 1-800-804-2994 to find out if you can upgrade to the fiber-fast experience on Jamaica's largest network.
Bills to pay and funds to transfer? No problem. I do it all on my time with JN Bank Live Online Banking. It's my simple and secure as that online banking.
Phone credit need a top up? No problem. I do it with JN Bank Live Online Banking.
It's quick and easy with just a few clicks. JN Bank Live, online banking that goes where you go. Sign up today. Visit jnbank.com. JN Bank will help you find a way.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the main watch looking at the Privy Council's Trafigura decision. Our guests in relation to this discussion, we have Mrs. Sharon Millwood Moore of the Privy Council unit in the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And we have online with us now Queen's Counsel Caroline Hay, attorney at law, of course, and former Senior Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions in the Office of the DPP. Before bringing you in, Mrs. Caroline Hay, Queen's Counsel. Good morning, Queen's Counsel.
Morning. Good morning. Morning, Sharon.
Before we bring you in, Mrs. Sharon Millwood Moore, just to complete something you were saying before the break, the Dutch authorities would make of the responses of the appellants, they'll make whatever use of it that they can. It may or may not assist their prosecution of the company Trafigura Behir. Just a bit of clarity on that. For the benefit of the listeners, is it Trafigura? It is Trafigura Behir that is being prosecuted in the Netherlands, yes?
That is what is our understanding, that the alleged breaches relate to Trafigura.
Yes.
So it is the company itself that
being
is the
prosecuted
focus.
in the Netherlands for alleged breaches of continue.
That is so.
I'm sorry. There's a bit of a technological issue here, but did you hear my question? In other words, can you just help the listeners by reminding us who is being prosecuted in the Netherlands?
Yes, it is Trafigura Bahir. And the point that I was making just before the break was that the request that was made by the National Public Prosecutor's Office in the Netherlands related to their investigation, which was underway, relating to the alleged breaches by Trafigura Bahir. So it is the company Trafigura Bahir that is, so to speak, under the microscope and in focus in the Netherlands, as we understand.
Understood. Now, you made a point about the need, the whole matter of open justice. In this particular case, in the Privy Council decision, it was indicated towards the end of the judgment, certainly, that an opportunity had been given to the relevant persons to give this evidence not in public. Can you enlighten us about that?
Yes, that is a very important aspect that the public also needs to be made aware of, that there were a number of instances where, as detailed in the judgment itself, arrangements had been made for these questions and answers to be provided in an interview where the appellants would have had counsel present. They would have been asked the questions, records would have been made, and the responses would have been transmitted. Now, for a number of reasons, those proceedings were opposed. You would have heard at various stages when they were opposed in the courts in terms of formal proceedings. But in addition to the initial request that the DPP's office received here in Jamaica, there were a number of supplemental letters of requests that we also received from the Netherlands, which really only came after what can only best be described as the lack of cooperation from the appellants. And in what we refer to as the 8th letter of request, this one came after there was an actual attempt at the questions and answers, and where what is recorded is that all of the appellants responded by saying, if my assistance is requested in an investigation of bribery, I cannot be of any assistance because I do not know anything about that. So,
Okay.
first of all, so I'm emphasizing because all of this, as you would know, is detailed in the judgment. Not only were there attempts to have dealt with this matter privately, but then here you actually have an instance where an attempt was made, but there was lack of cooperation in terms of the responses that were to have been given. And it was only after those stages were exhausted that this request now came for the matter to be dealt with in open court and by a judge who now would have the powers exercised under regular judicial function to be able to have witnesses answer questions in keeping with the request.
Understood. Queen's Counsel Caroline, hey, good morning again.
Morning, Sharon.
Any reaction to what Mrs.
Morning,
Sharon Moore has said? And in particular, can you give us indicate to us what some of your experiences were when you were at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in relation to how you were treated with, in particular, as you did this case?
Well, I have not had the opportunity. I was in transit when I was on way here. So when you were speaking with Mrs. Middlemore, I would not have been able to listen to what I'm sure was a good analysis of the background and the paperwork that would have led to the judgment, which has been a long time in coming. So I'm quite sure that, knowing her, that even without listening to it, I'm quite willing to agree with whatever she said blindly. But I don't know that I can assist the listeners with much more of the content, because of course I've not been at the DPP's office since 2012. And so I wouldn't have access to the files. It's as I'm listening to is it deputy or senior deputy?
She's the head of the Privy Council unit at the Office of the DPP.
Right.
Mrs. Sharon Middlemore. Yeah.
I know, but I don't know what her post is now. But as I listen to her, I'm being reminded of the amount of work that went in and how we ended up with seeking orders after the efforts were made to have all of the interviewing done privately.
Yes.
So I don't know. I mean, there've been other things that I think are more salacious than clinical. I think the focus on this case should really be on not just what led to the judgment, but what actually now is the judgment, and how groundbreaking, in my own view, it is.
How groundbreaking do you find it?
Well, to have a judgment on a very unique area of practice, which represents really an amalgam of criminal law, criminal investigations, diplomacy, international relations, international conventions, to have a judgment from your highest court that treats not just with, simple matters and not so highly placed people, but treats with highly placed people and the duties on them and the expectations on them, is by itself something to be celebrated, because it's not so common. You have a lot of litigation around persons who are not necessarily so highly placed, but there's a lot of international effort around making sure that persons who are highly placed are held accountable. So some of the international conventions on corruption, some of the international conventions on just transnational organized crime, a lot of those recognize the fact that there are persons who, in governance and government, who, when they offend, it's difficult for countries to gather evidence against them. And I'm not by saying this alleging that the persons in Jamaica have offended, but it is a good discussion on their accountability to the public, and not just the Jamaican public, because if they answer, now that this order has been made, if the Dutch sustain their interest in this investigation, their answers will go overseas.
Yeah.
So it's an openness that is required in the world, not just in your own country, when you are in high office. And your actions may be innocuous, or you may be affiliated with high office and not necessarily be a high office holder. Mr. Hine was not an office holder, but he was associated with high office holders. So I think it's a very good development in our jurisprudence in terms of just the area of practice and what it actually says. And I think that should be the focus of the discussions generally.
No, Mrs. Hay, for example, Mrs. Millwood Moore, who you asked the question, she is now one of the senior deputy directors of public prosecutions in that office. And you yourself, a former senior deputy director, Mrs. Hay, Queen's Counsel now, you had been at the time when you were there, you indicated recently, it was in the media, that you were described as an overzealous prosecutor and you came under some amount of pressure. And what was that experience like? Because you're here talking about the need to exact or to have justice done no matter who it is in society in terms of the level that they are at. You have a job to do. You may even have a future prosecutor listening to the program right now. How was that experience for you, and how did you stand up in light of all of that and have the fortitude to press on regardless?
How I'll answer it is this way. Prosecutors are members of public chambers. They're public servants. And in the statistics over the world show that the average stay of attorneys in public chambers and in prosecutors' offices is 2.5 years, unless they desire to make their career there.
Okay.
So they generally don't stay long. They generally see public chambers as a place to gain experience. And it is an excellent training ground because you have to learn large swatches of law in order to be able to function effectively. You have to have an attitude of constant work. You have to be prepared to be unpopular. You have to be prepared to sit up at night doing your notations as to when you have your dozens and hundreds of files on a circuit, because a lot of all of the director's representation, the director of public prosecution's representation in all the courts is on your shoulders whenever you stand. So for lawyers entering public chambers and public prosecutors' offices, they are already going into very intense workspaces, and they are going to have to sometimes make decisions that are quite unpopular.
I may have to leave it there. May have to make decisions that are quite unpopular. I think we have to leave it there because...
So they have to just be strong. You're going to come across different challenges and they have to be strong. I'm glad to have answered it that way.
Yes, and we are really at the close of this main watch. Mrs. Millwood Moore, in a second or two, any final word?
I would add in leaving the significance of an area of the judgment where what was emphasized by the law lords, you see, in terms of the open justice principle, and as it relates certainly to general accountability and good governance, they said that in terms of the open justice principle, its significance has, if anything, increased in an age which attaches growing importance to public accountability of public officers and institutions, and to the availability of information about the performance of their functions. So the public and the media and all of society has an interest in court proceedings.
Have to leave it there. I want to thank both of you for being with us in this main watch. Wish we had more time. Thank you for being with us. The morning watch will be right back after this break.
Most welcome.
JN Bank Live Online Banking is your quick and easy banking that's safe and secure. Sign up today. Visit jnbank.com. JN Bank will help you find a way. The time is
7:32.
You know how Jamaican people do everything extra, right? So why should planning your retirement be any different? Introducing Jngi Silvershield, 2-in-1 coverage for motor vehicle and home including contents. See? Extra! Imagine 25% JN member discount, emergency roadside assistance, accident forgiveness up to $1 million and more! Jngi Silvershield, exclusively for members of the Caribbean community of retired persons. Visit jngi.com. Jngi, we'll help you find a way. A member of the JN Group.
This is the 20th anniversary of Digicel, so let's celebrate. Remember, give me some minutes, just put some sauce and a Digicel them a top. Get you dance, everybody do a dance. Do the dance, set for the summer dance. Everybody, shake your phone, shake your wings, shake your phone, shake your wings. Yeah, we better together. Digicel, that a famous when the lights now. Digicel, that a famous when the lights now. Digicel, let's celebrate. With Digicel, made in Jamaica, there since 2001.
Tropical Race 4 disease, TR4, is a soil-borne disease that has the potential to wipe out the Jamaican banana and plantain crops. Farmers and visitors must disinfect shoes and tools before entering farms daily. If your banana or plantain crops seem to be wilting, call the Banana Board at 876-922-5490 or 876-922-4327. Jamaica Banana Board, Green Gold, Life Health and the Environment.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Let's take a look at the newspaper, see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here in the Jamaica Observer more pressure. A church leader in Western Jamaica emerged as the lone voice of support. And this is in relation to embattled parliamentarian George Wright, or so described as embattled parliamentarian George Wright yesterday. And this is in relation to also the fact that a number of groups in society have expressed strong concerns in relation to Mr. Wright. We have another story here in the Jamaica Observer. We are in a full-blown crisis right now, and this is in relation to CXC, concerned that students are not meeting the relevant coursework requirements required for CXC. We now turn to the Gleaner latest news here online. Dental assistants withdraw their service. Dental assistants withdraw service. More than 100 dental assistants across Jamaica. 4 health regions have withdrawn their services today as they protest the non-payment of a 4% salary increase that was due to them, along with other allowances. And one more. Jamaica received 4th batch of COVID vaccine. Those and many other stories in both major daily newspapers. Coming up next, we will review some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is, what do you think about the Privy Council decision re traffic Gura? If you haven't done so yet, leave a comment on our Facebook and our Love 101 YouTube, live broadcast, or WhatsApp voice notes, and of course, text to 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
The Trinity is a controversial doctrine. As a Christian, do you understand it? Are you horrified to hear that many Christians behave as if they believe in 3 gods, while others believe in 1? Join host Bishop Harold Steve Blair and guests Pastor Christopher Kennedy and Bishop Dr. Damian Friend as they discuss the Trinity. It's on The Rock, Tuesday, April 27 at 10 a.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
Have some issues and concerns in your community that you wish could be attended to now? Want a platform to voice those concerns? This could be the place for you. Send your 30-second voice notes describing your issue to 876-997-3125. That's 876-997-3125. 3125. Be sure to type a voice for hope before sending the voice note. Then listen on Tuesday at 9:45 a.m. for a voice for hope. Share the concerns you have seen. You know that street light that has not been working for a long time, or your community has not had water for 2 weeks now? Yes, here's somewhere you can share it. And maybe, just maybe, we can get some love on your situation. Remember now, send a 30-second voice note describing your issue and type a voice for hope before sending your voice note to 876-997-3125. A voice for hope. It's a problem, and we need a solution now. Love 101 FM, the family station, bringing a voice to your situation.
When there's violence against women, who are the real victims? The man who is a product of his society, or the woman who suffers the repercussions? Is it both? Is violence gender specific? Is the woman as the aggressor deserving of anything she gets? What makes a woman beat up a man and the man take it? What is wrong with the psyche of us all that makes us so violent while at the same time accepting of it? Why is our cycle always a negative one? Where is our heart? Violence against women. The Psychology of the People. Dr. Herbert Gale, SSP Stephanie Lindsay, Dr. Euphemia Burke Robinson, Owen Black Ellis, Simone Sharia, and the rest of Jamaica will converge at the Love 101 FM virtual town hall meeting to figure out the answers to these and many more questions. We'll all discuss the issues, the problems, share the personal and intimate stories, the possible solutions and options. It will be 2 hours of an intense exchange of thoughts and truths many of us are ignorant to, denying or avoiding. Our host and interviewer is Nadine Blair, and Shivani Blair will be your social media liaison. Make sure you get there early with your thoughts and questions so you can be heard. 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Tuesday, April 27. Violence Against Women. The Psychology of the People. It will be right here on Love 101 FM and live on our YouTube channel and Facebook page. Love 101 FM's virtual town hall meeting is sponsored by Colgate, Suavitel, Chris and Charles, Shade Purified Drinking Water,
Music Media Productions,
and the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Listen for JIS at 7 p.m. and our Bible study from Praise Deliverance Ministry will be aired at 9:30 p.m. immediately after the town hall.
Here is a reminder from Love 101, the family station, as we face the COVID-19 pandemic. Be kind to address stigma during this pandemic. Share the latest facts and avoid exaggerating stories. Show solidarity with affected persons and tell the stories of persons who have experienced the virus. I am Kimberly Levy from Love 101, reminding you to protect yourself while protecting others. Stay safe and keep it locked on Love 101, the family station.
On Christ. The Trinity is a controversial doctrine. As a Christian, do you understand it? Are you horrified to hear that many Christians behave as if they believe in 3 gods, while others believe in 1? Join host Bishop Harold Steve Blair and guests Pastor Christopher Kennedy and Bishop Dr. Damian Friend as they discuss the Trinity. It's on The Rock, Tuesday, April 27 at 10 a.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
See we are where the student. See we are. I want to go on campus. We are carry the Lord from campus.
Hey Campusites, do you know who is the most vulnerable student in the classroom? Well, if you said the student who is deaf or blind or any other student that has a disability, then you're right. It's the student with a disability. How do they manage doing school? How do they manage doing online classes, exams, assignments, and everything in between? Well, we're going to help you find out this and much more. This Tuesday, April 27 at 5:30 p.m. during Campus Connection, where we will connect with students with disabilities as we take a look at navigating education and the real world with a disability during COVID. We will find out how COVID has impacted their mental health and the pros and the cons of learning during a pandemic with a disability. Also, stay tuned for education news, campus tune, and our new testimonial feature dubbed I Tried Christ, You Should Too. That's Campus Connection with Reverend Stevenson Samuels and Floyd Wilson. This and every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. right here on Love 101, the family station.
Make it go and bounce in my room. Cause of that I go on pan campus. We are carried a lot pan campus. Come on, tell me what one. Campus connection, yeah, that's a one.
I'm looking for a new pizza joint with that perfect crust. My car needs a bit of a tune-up, and my pregnant wife needs something from the pharmacy. So I turned to the printed yellow directory, and in an instant, the pizzas are ordered, the oil change is booked, and the thing that I'm not allowed to say out loud has been purchased for my wife. Problem solved. When you need something quick, do yourself a favor. Flip through the printed yellow directory. Stop searching, start finding. Yellow, we know local.
Out of many one people, out of many one juice, out of many real fruit, but there ain't no substitute. We put the best fruit in, pour out enough love in, bring out the sunshine in the true juice. This is the juice of Jamaica. Every fruit, every tropical flavor. When you feel the heat, you know say you are beetroot juice with your neighbor. Out of many one juice, true juice.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We head into the second watch. And, well, looking at some matters in relation to gender, there is a view, in fact, it has been indicated, certainly in the United States of America, by a particular body, that if a child claims that he or she is transgender, teachers must affirm this by calling that child by their preferred name and pronoun. And this is in relation to a quotation by Alliance Defending Freedom, which is a body in the United States of America, which often takes cases brought to it by persons who need their rights to be protected if their Christian values, in many cases their Christian values, are being challenged in a situation where the relevant authority or person might be indicating that they did something wrong to them, but the defense is that for them to do something, if that's something that they would do would violate their Christian beliefs or their conscience, that they ought not to be forced to do it. Some of the popular gender-neutral pronouns, for example, you have their, them, and they. Those are the neutral pronouns that many people know about. Well, in terms of the additional words which have been which now exist in relation to persons who are transgender, they include Z and her. And that Z is Z-E or Z-E, and the her is H-I-R. Most listeners would never have heard of those words. What's the Caribbean response to all of this? Because the United States is just a couple of miles away. Well, depends on how you define a couple of miles away. But they're just next door. They're our neighbors. And our guest today is Dr. Wayne West. He's the chairman of the Jamaican Coalition for a Healthy Society. And we want to have a brief conversation about this matter. Dr. West?
He's on, but before you go to Dr. West, let me just state my time signal.
The time by the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Healthy People, Healthy Environment is
7:26 on the Sound of Love. Yes, Stokely, back with you.
Welcome again to the Morning Watch. Stokely Marshall, your host. Dr. West?
Yes.
Dr. Wayne West?
Good morning to you and your listeners and the staff there.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, can you hear me?
I'm so sorry, sir. Not too sure if we heard you, Dr. West. We hope we're not having a technological issue in terms of hearing you well. Dr. West? We hear you sometimes. We're hearing you now.
All right,
Right.
let me
I am hearing you, and
connection.
you are.
This is Love Listeners back in a moment.
You wanted me to comment on what's
Entrepreneurs, now you've got more support in your corner. Introducing Sagicor Bank Business Resource Center, where entrepreneurs benefit from free training in business management, financial support and guidance from pros, as well as research capabilities. Sagicor Bank, in partnership with the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, brings you this first center of its kind for small entrepreneurs to develop and grow. Let's help you take your business to the next level of success. Contact Sagicor Bank Business Resource Center today. WhatsApp 876-997-3745.
Flow is connecting Jamaica to fiber-fast internet. Over 250 communities island-wide have received upgrades since last year, with many more to come. Flow is committed to giving more Jamaicans better internet access. And with over $40 billion invested, our network grows stronger each day. Visit a Flow store today or call 1-800-804-2994 to find out if you can upgrade to the fiber-fast experience on Jamaica's largest network.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dokin Marshall. Again, we're in the second watch having a conversation with Dr. Wayne West, Chairman of the Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society, and we're looking at the whole matter of gender in this segment in relation to the, as it were, controversial gender pronouns in the USA from a Caribbean perspective. Dr. West? Dr. Wayne West?
Yes, good morning. Again. Can you hear me?
I'm going to suggest, Dr. West, that you don't speak very quickly.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, but apparently there is a problem because I'm hearing you, but you are clearly not hearing me.
Oh, I see. Okay, sir. Any comments on that? Well, let me, for the benefit of the listeners, there was
you wanted me to comment on what's happening in America?
I think Dr. West's internet is lagging because we're hearing you clearly. I think the problem is on his side.
Well, I can hear you quite clearly, but obviously you are.
Well, go ahead,
Dr.
West. Go ahead, please.
Go ahead, Dr. West.
Yes,
go ahead.
I was saying that in the United States, the ideology, the philosophical basis for some people, not for everyone, of course, for some people, is unhinged from reality. In other words, it is based on the desires of the individual. So if you desire to be a male, although you are female, then the ideology said that the desire must be affirmed. Of course, that is struct a society. If you build your society on the desires of people rather than on the external reality that a man has certain physical features and a woman has certain physical features, you end up with chaos. So that is a purely illogical, philosophical, desire-driven agenda. Desires are what abortion is. If I am a man and I feel I should identify as a child, then the law must have that. If I want to identify as a man, actually any thinking person with that. But that is what the Americans are trying to build their society on. I think the important thing for people like us in other countries is to just wait for this wholly illogical and foolish philosophy for law to collapse on itself, because it is going to collapse. The fact is, remember that communism, for example, almost probably a third of the world followed after communism, but communism was illogical and didn't produce, was illogical, and it will fall apart. So we must just make sure we don't put it into our laws and wait for it to fall apart.
interesting you said that, because in a neighboring Caribbean territory of Ghana, without getting into the specifics of it, the Caribbean Court of Justice, the CCJ, had made a ruling in terms of persons being able to wear the attire or the clothing of their choice. So in other words, if you are of a particular sex and you wish to wear the clothing of the other that is traditionally worn by the other sex, that is fine. And this is going back to 2018, CCGA declares Ghana's cross-dressing law unconstitutional. Of course, it's not on the same exact topic, but the themes are somewhat similar, that some may argue, because we're talking about using the opposite pronoun for yourself in America, if you so desire that. Here more closer to home in Ghana, we're talking about wearing the attire of the opposite gender, if you so desire. Any thoughts, sir? Dr. West?
Well, suppose I'm a man, I want to wear the attire of a, suppose I'm a man and I wish to wear the agenda of a baby, in other words, diapers to go to work. Would and my employers say that that is unsatisfactory? Would that be unconstitutional? Their approach that those who are making law based on desire and free of reason, because that is supposed to be the order of the day for some persons. Again, not for everyone, but for some persons. But I just go back to the reality that we have to live in. That if a man thinks that he's a woman, something is wrong with him. So he has a psychological disorder. It is not normal. We are not to abuse these people or anything like that. But we have to recognize that they have a psychological disorder and deal with it as such. What the woke, that's the word they use these days, woke people are saying, well, you know, you are a man, you think you're a woman, then you are normal. Well, you are a man, you think you are a baby, you are normal too. But of course, they probably wouldn't allow that, because that may be a bit ridiculous. A bit more ridiculous, I should say, not ridiculous. So, yes, we have a pattern of illogical thinking among judges and so on in some places these days that we will have to just make sure it is not become part of our law in Jamaica, and wait for those foolish ideas to just fritter away over a period of time in the United States and those places that support them.
Because of some of the issues that we're having this morning with technology, we have not been able to go into that U.S. decision. In a nutshell, it was about a professor, and he had a student who, to cut it short, wanted to be called by a particular gender pronoun, and the professor declined so to do. And the professor,
well, I'm not hearing you well now, so this is also affecting you as well now.
Yes, Dr. West, you're saying something? I think there's a slight delay in the line, but to continue for the benefit of the listeners, the professor went as far
I was saying that yes. You were breaking. I was hearing you clearly before.
I see.
But
well, let me just complete what I was saying, and then I'll ask you for a final word, Dr. West. And the professor indicated that he was prepared to go as far as call the person by their first name and their last name without actually using the relevant gender pronoun. However, that was not enough to avail the professor. There was a case in court. He appealed the case, and he actually was victorious on appeal. Dr. West, any final thoughts you want to leave with us today? We're so sorry about the challenge you're having that we're having with the relevant phone line.
Well, I'm just saying that we are. What's happening in the United States and so on is that there's a particular ideology. It's totally illogical, but it wants to run the world by putting the desires of persons ahead of reason. Okay, so if you desire to be a man, even though you are a woman, then that should be affirmed. I'm saying that is illogical, it's unsustainable. And we in Jamaica and the Caribbean and other places must just make sure we don't put those things into our law because it's going to collapse. It's illogical, so it will collapse on itself. So we must just wait for it to collapse and don't integrate them into our law. In the meantime, persons who have these psychological challenges, we must treat them in a way that is symptomatic and look for cures as we would look for cures for any psychological disorder.
Understood. Interesting. Interesting that you said that, Dr. West, because some of these persons will say that they'll raise other arguments. For example, the other arguments that they have raised are that the way that we are treating with gender is very traditional and that you should let someone discover their gender as opposed to sort of lead them into it. Any comments on that, sir?
Well, I mean, it's traditional is sensible. If traditional were incorrect, then that'd be one thing. But like I said, there is sex, male and female, and a man, quote unquote, someone who has male genitalia and male physiology and male anatomy, is a man, no matter what anyone says. In his or her head, if they feel they have the opposite or some other consideration, whether some of them identify as puppies, I've heard an adult man with 7 children identify as a child. These are mental disorders. They have standard mental and psychological disorders. So what we need to do is to treat them as such. If you integrate mental and psychological disorders as normal into your society, you'll be laying the foundation for care.
Have to leave it there this morning. And for the benefit of the listeners, this is at the Alliance Defending Freedom website, Alliance Defending Freedom, and the headline there is Court Rules. Professor can't be forced to endorse an ideology against his beliefs. And that post there is March 26, 2021, quite recent. Dr. Wayne West, I want to thank you for being with us as a guest on the Morning Watch. I hope you're well, sir.
Yes, I'm fine, and thank you very much. All the best.
Great having you. Great having you, sir. And I want to also indicate to our listeners, thanks for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. And to get copies of the program, please call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. And, of course, download our Love 101 app and stay connected to us, the family station. This has been The Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. I am Stokely Marsh, handing it back to Dub in the Morning with Giovanni Blair.